I want you to know that as it relates to incarceration in the United States of America, our being the largest country in the world to have people that are incarcerated, it is done by design. It is done by design. If you think about how many people in here have someone that has been incarcerated in your family? I don't think that there's hardly anyone in here who will not raise their hand, because 1 out of every 4 people in America have some form of experience with either jail, prison, arrest, etc. So let's just talk about it then as it relates to women. I'm Pam Jones, and I'm the CEO of Communities in Cooperation, Inc., where we focus on women's reentry. Why women's reentry? Because women are heads of households, but yet women are incarcerated, and that is not taken into consideration, because that's a difference. A woman being incarcerated with kids is a whole lot different to a man being incarcerated. In fact, as it relates to women, if you go to a prison that's a women's facility, there's a short line of people visiting a woman who's incarcerated. But when you go to the men's facility, the line is down the street wrapping around the corner, because there is a difference in how women are perceived, because when they're incarcerated, they have stigmatization. In other words, they're considered to be damaged goods. And that means after they're out, a male can say, "Hey mama, how you doing?" They have a place to live in no time. But a woman who's been incarcerated, when she's been released, it takes an inordinate amount of time for her to go through the systems that exist to try to get a place to live. Just think about yourself not having been incarcerated, but if you had to find a place to live, if you had to rent an apartment, do you know how hard it is to get a lease, to obtain a lease in the state of New Jersey, and with an affordable rent? Who can afford the rents? Some people are staying in substandard types of conditions in order to just have a roof over their head. Check this out. What about laws? What about policies? Who's checking the halfway houses to make sure that those conditions are not substandard? Check this out. Who is checking on the shelters that are here, right here in the city of Newark? Who's checking on the shelters where women are living to make sure that the water is running, that the bathrooms are functional, that the heat is working, that it's clean? One lady just the other day was put out of a shelter because she was in the bathroom too long, but she was in there with her disinfectant trying to clean so she could wash her face in a sink. So you need to be aware that women's incarceration has many, many stigmas. There's much that goes on. They're not treated the same as men. Now let's talk about being inside of a facility. Women are being managed by males and females that have an opportunity to have the, what would you call it, the systems approach for male incarceration. Because it wasn't until, hello Reverend Roundtree, let's give Reverend Roundtree, Councilwoman Roundtree, God bless you. Amen, so glad to see you. But our women, as it relates to their being incarcerated, when they're on the inside, there's just so much that goes on that happens to them that you would just not imagine, because they're being, when I got my monthly and I'm not feeling well, a male counterpart or a male officer will not give me the privilege or the understanding that I'm not feeling well. Their intentional ideal would be man up. Come on, let's get it together. And so things like that bring trauma to women. What about women when they have their monthly and there's not enough sanitary supplies and they have to use toilet paper or old clothing in order to maintain themselves, especially the heavy bleeders? Those things are very traumatic. What about a woman who has a child and she doesn't have the money to have J-Pay, a method of communication, to talk to her child or to her family, that she's been the head of that household, the gavel was hit, she was taken to prison, separated from her family, can't cry in public because she'll be considered weak, she'll become a victim of the system, and she has to hold it together, and then she doesn't even have the money because the J-Pay system is so expensive. What about the woman who has diabetes and needs medication and doesn't have a lot of working time while on the inside, being paid less than $2 an hour to work to get money on a card that will allow them to go to the commissary where the rates are outrageous, and now they've got to make a decision on, do I buy my diabetes medicine or do I get some additional items that I need, like a pair of sneakers for my feet? Yeah. What happens when someone is sick and they can't get to the infirmary because of movement? You can't just go anywhere you want to go like you can go to the doctor when you feel sick. You got to put in a form. You got to wait for somebody to read it. You got to wait for movement. You've got to wait to see if you're even going to be able to see a doctor that day. And I cannot tell you how many women have died on the inside of prison from neglect. And they struggle and they suffer and these traumatic experiences because it starts at home when they begin to get that trauma, the traumatic experience of somebody raping them in the family, and they say, you know what goes on in this house stays in this house. Women have a tremendously hard time of trying to, and we have America that's breathing down the neck of African Americans, making sure we're the #1 group in America that's inside of these facilities. When you go there, you see black and brown people. Now you are seeing more whites, but not as many as the African Americans and the Hispanics. So what's going on here? That's why we're having this. We're trying to gain the awareness and trying to make sure that you understand what's happening to your sisters. We're trying to make you understand what's happening as you go to work every day and you worry about your own self, but what's really going on with your sisters who are having a tough time trying to find a place to live, trying to have food to eat, trying to do all of the things that are needed just as their inalienable rights, to have shelter, to have food, even to have water. And they don't have these things. And then they're told you have to get it. And if you don't get it, you go back. And they have these pressures, 30 days, 90 days. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. There's a lot that I could say, but I'm mindful of the time. I want you as sisters to know you need to step up to the plate. And I'm going to talk about at the end some of the things that you can do, but I'm going to turn it over to Casavia. She's going to give her perspective on having been incarcerated.
Thank you, Pastor Pam, for your level set. She basically explained the experience that women who are incarcerated go through. I am a true testament of that. Like Pastor Pam stated, it started from home. I no longer look like what I used to go through. And I'm to tell my story for folks to understand how impactful this was for me. I actually am getting a little emotional. I went through childhood sexual abuse from the home. I was, the folks that were supposed to take care of me, where I suffered the most harm from. I didn't have space to language those traumas. And I came from a culture, from a third world country, my parents from Haiti. And like Pastor Pam said, what stays in the house, what happens in the house stays in the house. Therefore, it was a challenging time for me as a child. I began to develop compulsive behaviors, and I was acting out, the phrase, hurt people, and there was no place for me to heal. So that traumatic child became a dramatic adult. I started to get incarcerated, and I realized that something was robbed from me as a child. Therefore, I didn't really understand the value of respecting other people's things, places, because it wasn't taught to me. It was a lot of challenging. I ended up having a child through that process. And thank God for my village. However, as a young mother being incarcerated, I had to create stories for my son. He thought I was in college most of the time. When I came home, he was 6. I came home in 2008. But my reentry journey wasn't pleasant. They didn't have programs when I came home. I didn't have a mentorship. I didn't have sisters that came out that created change to help me, show me the ropes. And you know, when a woman comes home, first thing she says, "Where's my kids?" When a man comes home, he's like, "Where's my woman at?" You know, or the labor force gives them the resources to just jump into a skill. You know, as mothers, we're nurturers. You know, and some of us had to find ourselves doing some strange things, some change to feed our kids and to bring stuff back into the family. So recidivism for women are harder, and we tend to go in and out more than men. A lot of us women that were incarcerated was from some type of trauma from the patriarchal system. You know, someone hurt us, a man hurt us, or we're doing some things to keep our man. It's not per se our actions or we wanted to make these mistakes. But I had my encounter with God in prison. My son's father found out that I was incarcerated, and he tried to get full custody of my son. And he petitioned me to go to family court. And I had 2 weeks left for parole. I was getting released. And I did everything I could in my power to not go to court. Because you can imagine the presence of coming from prison and what the judge would see, it would make a big difference on his decision. But God knew what he was doing. I had to go to court. So here I am in my orange couture jumpsuit, my bedazzled bracelets, and I only have my mom as my support system. His father had this renowned attorney who painted me out to be a drug addict. But it was the grace of God that he did not take my son from me. He did give my son's father residential for the time being, but I was able to keep my joint custody. So before I got released, we had someone come in from Essex County College. Her name was Miss Knox from the Wise Women's Center. And she was talking to us like this in the audience, and she was saying, if you ladies give yourself a chance, when you come home, I'll help you get yourself back on your feet. So I went into the halfway house, and they gave me a bus ticket, the 25 bus, I was we call it the Green Monster, down on Doremus Avenue in Newark. I came from the county, I took that bus ticket, and I didn't go see my son, that I missed so much. I didn't go to see my mama, my man. I went to Essex County from the prison, because it starts from accountability. I knew that there was trauma as a child, and I knew there was reasons why I was doing these things, but that abuse stopped at 19. Here I am in my 20s. When am I gonna take accountability and say, you know what, if you wanna be the change that you want for yourself, you have to put in the work. Mm-hmm. So it's called shadow work. And I knew if I made that one executive decision to invest in me, because there's help out there. It wasn't a lot of help, it was far in between. But God sent Miss Knox to jail to see me. And I heard her. And I took the leap of faith, and I went to Essex County. I enrolled in school. I enrolled in a field of second chances because I wanted to be a nurse. I always wanted to be a professional helper all my life. But I knew that certain certain careers you can't get into, and we gotta keep it real. And I went into that role. I went into human social services. I did what I had to do, and I just began working on myself. I was my first case management. I was my first participant. I had to buy into that change. Mm-hmm. Once I bought into it and I started to see the road to incarceration become narrower and narrower to the point where I would never compromise my livelihood for prison again. And I knew, I said, okay, what do you want me to do next, God? You know, I've got my bachelor's, I'm working on myself, but my sisters are still calling me from prison saying that they don't have enough pads. They're not being seen by doctors. They're not getting food in their commissary. They want to come home in 3 months, but they're scared that they're going to have to go back to that man, that the reason why they got into prison, because they don't have no resources. Yeah. So it became a problem, and I was like, okay. So I had to find a solution, and then that's when I created a really grassroots, been doing it for 2 years, called Meet Her at the Gate. And Meet Her at the Gate is a program that I meet women, I get to know them 60 days in a wake up, that's our term, before you come home. And I talk to them before they come home. And I find out what their goals are, what their needs are. And then when their release date is, and I rally up their family, because reunification is real. We gotta come home to a support system. When they come home, I meet them at the gate, give them a red carpet experience, have gift bags, and have the folks love up on them. And then we start getting to business. It's not a warm transfer. I'm an advanced mentor. I'm the one that says, okay, we're going to this doctor tomorrow. You said go to, was going back to school. You said you wanted to get your kids back, so I got you a lawyer. So I'm doing the work for them that I know I needed for me. And I'm gonna leave that there I'm gonna let y'all sit with that. And then I'm gonna let Pastor Pam continue.
Hi everyone, my name is Aisha Cornegay. I work as the supervisor for the Women's Reentry Program, and I want to just have a challenge for everyone to really break the stigma of reentry in our minds, and I want to just be able to share this with you. There's a man named Brian Stevenson. He says, the true measure of our character is how we treat the poor, the disfavored, the accused, the incarcerated, and the condemned. We are all implicated when we allow other people to be mistreated. And I want us to think about, if we measure the content of our character by this standard, how would we measure up overall? I want to think about how can we're responsible for how we treat our community and help each other. And we must care. It must be a concern and a continuous conversation that leads to strategic solutions that have action, because this is a great conversation. We're able to understand, to see it from one end to another. But when we leave out of these doors, we want to be able to take action, and what does that look like, right? Because in our assessment with a lot of the women, they have many concerns. Most of it is being housing, employment, and taking care of their children, right? In addition to making sure I'm okay, because we've talked about the trauma and how it bleeds into everything we do. We were just at the prison 2 days ago having conversations with the women, and in conversation you see the trauma that bleeds out in these conversations, right? You see the effects of neglect, whether it be substance abuse, right? And then all these things are made larger while I'm incarcerated, whether I have a reproduction issue, right? And not being taken care of the way I need to, I have to come out and deal with these things on my own. So you have women who are left to defend themselves, and they're vulnerable in these communities, and you want to be able to know, what does that look like? Think about in your own life, do you come across these women, you come across people all over the state, right? And you want to be able to know, how can I be able to be of service and support, right? And we just have to have respect for everyone. Desire healing for everyone, most of all, and having a heart of empathy. All of us, each one of us in this room, have some sort of negative impact of trauma, and it just shows up in everybody in different ways. Some of us don't have the capacity, right, or the environment that's conducive to healing. So we have to have patience and think about ways of providing support. Whether you're continuing to support an organization as Meet Her at the Gate, whether it be CIC, whatever you do, find a way. I just challenge you to think of a way to keep this conversation going and take action, right? Let the seed be in the ground and really blossom into something that responds. I want you to be able to respond to it. So I'm gonna let Pastor Pam talk about these policies and things, but even if you feel like, oh, it's too much going on for me, you have a way to respond with action. Please don't think you don't matter, because your action matters in the midst of this.
One of the things I just want to talk about is that, because I'm so passionate about women's reentry and have been doing it since 2005, y'all. This is not a novice. This is someone who's had the experience, and I know exactly what to do. We go inside of the prisons. We meet with them for 3-4 months before they're released. We get to know them. We make an assessment of what their needs are, and then we try to meet those needs. If they can't get home, we've got a van that goes and picks them up, and we bring them to a motel and put them in overnight until they can get Monday to see that probation officer officer, that parole officer, and make sure that they have something to eat and that they have care packages. I can't sit here without acknowledging Reverend Louise Scott Roundtree, our councilwoman at large. When I came across the problems of so many people being released, I says, my goodness, they all need care packages. And she got together with the clergy and she had them to donate, and they made care packages. We were able to take backpacks and fill it with towels, washcloths, soap, you name it, anything, deodorant, whatever someone would need. She made sure that those needs were met. And that's some of the things that you can begin to do as citizens, is look for ways that you can donate little things to programs to help these women. If you go in the store, you know the cost of deodorant, you know how you're trying to buy for 20 people and wash. So if you could just make a little donation, that would be something that would help.
Yeah.
Also, as you see things around you, I'm here to tell you that there's a lot of talk about restorative justice, but in essence, when you go inside of those prisons, this is where accountability needs to take place, and we need to bring this to the attention of the legislatures to let them know that we're talking restorative justice, but on the inside we're having punitive implementations of processes and procedures. Yes?
Could you speak on Edna Mahan?
Sure. Absolutely. I go into Edna Mahan twice a month.
Yeah.
At least 2 hours a day. I go not only to Edna Mahan, but where else do we go, Miss Aisha? We go to Fenwick House, we go to Kentuck, we go to all the halfway houses and the prisons. And we make sure that we assess the needs. But let me tell you something, it's no walk in the park. When you go in the prisons, you see that the ceiling has been painted over with white paint, but beneath it, if you were to stick your finger through, there's mold. They cover up the mold. There's very little that is being done to make sure that these women have the rights of not being able to breathe in mold. Many women are sick there because of that. And when they come out, we make sure that they get to the doctor, that they get everything checked out. We have doctors that we have set up things to make sure that these things will happen for them, because Edna Mahan is no joke. There are women in there who have been raped. Raped. We've seen them, and we know, and they can't talk about it, and they get close to us and they want to say something, but they're too afraid to say anything. In Edna Mahan, we have women that are going to, their shoes are falling apart, but they don't have enough money to go get sneakers from the commissary because the commissary prices are so high that they can't even afford it. And then they say, oh, they smoke cigarettes, they spending on tobacco. Not all women do that, you know, but there's, they get paid 87 cents an hour to do certain jobs. And the most they can get paid is $2 an hour. And they have to take those dollars and make it work. They have to have communication with their family through JPay, and they have to pay that bill, and that's not cheap. They have to make sure that they have soap and lotion, the things you think that they're not getting that for free. They have to purchase these things. They have to determine, make a decision, should I buy deodorant or should I get my toothpaste? And these walks in the park about people going to prison, 3 hots in a cot, shame on people for saying that.
Right.
Because this place, institutionalism is not what you think. These people are slaves. They're working hard, and the benefits, they run the prisons. They do all of the cleaning, they do all of the cooking, they iron, they take care of the vehicles, they wash the cars, they wash the walls, they paint the buildings. They take care of the prisons. But yet they're only getting 87 cents to $2 an hour to do all of these jobs. And where is that money going inside of that prison? It should go to their account so that when they get out, they can find an apartment, that when they get out, they can have food, that they can buy food, and there wouldn't be these food insecurities. But they come out empty-handed. Some of them have a $200 check. What's a $200 check when you don't even have a bra? Women take their panties and they put their arms in their panties and pull it up around their neck to have a bra to hold themselves up. They have nothing. When they walk out of there, they have absolutely nothing. They have nothing. And as a result, they come home and whatever they had when they went in, they can't wear it when they come out because they're 4 sizes bigger when they come out than when they went in. So we need to be mindful. What needs to happen? These blighted areas in these communities, we need to talk to our legislatures and we need to say, listen, we need to have these properties turned in and use some of the dollars that are here in in these states and these federal governments and get it drawn down to these cities so that those areas can be developed for reentry. Reentry women should not have to compete with people in the cities trying to get housing. They have nowhere to go. They didn't mess up their rent and not pay their rent. Now they don't, can you help me find somewhere to live? No, they have no way of getting an apartment. In our programming, we even have thought of clever ways to kind of come up with helping a woman, and that would be as a result, and we need more funding in the community to do things like this. Say, for example, if you're the mother of someone who was incarcerated, and I come and I live with you, and your mortgage is $1,000 a month, and it's just me and you living there, we can make appropriations to pay to the mortgage company $500 for that woman to live there until she's able to get on her feet. But it takes money to do that, and we service hundreds of women. And do you know how many when they get out, we get them $150 worth of groceries that we have delivered to their homes from ShopRite or wherever we can, because we can't give them money. But we're trying, and more community organizations need to be taken into account to have funding, like her organization, where she's wanting to do the work, doesn't have the level of funding that she needs, doing it anyway, thinking of innovative ways. But we as sisters need to come together and have a voice so that we can stand before those people who are the legislative organizations that are making policies and helping with funding. Allocation of dollars, allocation of properties, allocation of health care, allocation of mental health care, all of that needs to be especially designed. We need, in the city of Newark, we need a one-stop for reentry. And right now, I'm getting a woman's one-stop reentry that's being formulated. I just got to sign the dotted line of the lease, and thank God that'll come about, but it took much effort. But you know what? You have to be consistent. And let me tell you something, you have to be thorough, because in order to do business with reentry, you got to have your business together. You got to be able to dot your I's and cross your T's. Don't come half-stepping and think anybody's going to give you $1 to do anything with, because you have to be able to account for your dollars if the legislature is kind enough to make sure that you're able to get it. And so we need to make sure that it's a two-way street. A lot of people raise their hand and say, I want to do reentry. Shame on you, because when they're given a chance to do it, they can't even deal with the dollars, and they don't even know how to deal with the dollars. We need to have structured classes where people like myself, people like yourself, Miss Aisha, we can train people on how to handle a reentry business and what's the administrative responsibilities to make sure it happens, because everybody wants to hand out a piece of bread, everybody wants to give somebody a pad, but you got to get those pads, you got to account for them. And that's what our America is just, there's a shortage of that. Nobody reaches one to teach one how to do this, and that's what I do. Reverend Roundtree will tell you, if you don't have a 501c3 and you want it, I'm begging people to come to a class so that they can start up their business. And people don't want the responsibility of doing that type of an effort, but they want to be on the front line saying, I did this, I did that, but you don't have a structure. In order to help, we need more structures in place. We need people like you who are in this room that takes it seriously. Come out and volunteer with her, with me, with any of, we're doing on, write this down, October the 19th, there's going to be a statewide reentry conference. Why is that happening? Because this is what I told Reverend Green. I says, Reverend Green, everybody's coming to me on how to do reentry. Everybody wants to collaborate. There's money that's coming from DOC, this organization, and money that's coming to DOC, that organization, but we don't know each other. So if we get ourselves together, where we get to know one another, that's going to be a collaborative effort to bring all of the reentry programs together and to put them together collaboratively so that we can have a guide, a statewide guide for women that are doing reentry. So we need to just wrap it up, but I just want you to know, just open your eyes, be vigilant, know about women's reentry, don't forget what you've been told today, and please look at laws, bills when you get a chance to vote. Make sure you're voting for things that also help out with reentry, and if it's not on a bill or nothing is going on in your town, bring it up with your people that are in government and say, what about women's reentry? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Could you
Yes, it's the War Memorial Building that's going to be in Trenton, New Jersey. It's going to be there. You know, we want you to come. Is Miss Irene come back? No. If you would like, I can have a list here where you can just give me your email address and I can send you the flyer. They weren't ready for today, but if you can just do a sign in, that would be most helpful. See Miss Aisha? Okay, you got, yes.
You know, I like what you just said. I just retired from the state. I live in Atlantic City. Right?
Yes, okay.
And I look at it bothers me sometimes, man. When I see these mothers, the grandmothers have to come to the school and get their kids, the mothers shut up and click.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Grandmothers, the mothers like 60 and 70 years old.
That's right.
The parents get out.
That's right.
Go right back out there.
That's right.
Selling those drugs out there. Most of those the white ladies, some of the sisters on that fentanyl dying out here. It's sad.
It is. It is. And I tell
I
you.
work for the state. I work for the schools.
Yes.
So that's a good job.
Well, I know.
I'm the president of Board of Education. I just retired. And I see that where the
Hats off to you, my brother. Thank you for sharing. You know, it's not easy when you have family that's on the inside. Yeah.
No, I have to bring it out, my
Yes,
friend.
thank you.
I have to bring it out.
Let's give him a hand up. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much. That's so true. That's so
I was just
true.
telling a friend of mine, he
That's
got
so true.
the daughter, and I just told him the other day, I said I know about diapers. And diapers can come to your house any time of the day. I see you out there smoking that weed. You got your daughter. And he kept the attitude with me. But it makes no difference when you kept the attitude with me. Because I'm a man of God. I'm assistant pastor. And I don't bow down to the devil.
Thank you.
So when the devil
Thank you.
try to get me wound up, that's when I step in.
That's right. That's right.
And I came in here. I wasn't gonna come in here, but I had to come in here,
Amen.
and I
Amen.
had to share this with you. The
Thank you.
mothers,
Thank
the
you.
grandparents,
We-
60 and 70 years old.
We pray. We pray every day.
We feel your pain.
Yeah.
And it's a sad,
It's
untenable situation,
Yes,
but
yes.
it's got to be dealt with.
You know, can I say something?
I was going to ask you a few words.
Yes, well, not for that, because I want to just thank Pastor Pam, because people were very quiet when she talked about the little bit we do, because it's really just a little bit
Yes,
to
yes.
get care packages.
Yes.
And we have a man sitting in the room that is expressing his passion. So we should be looking at him, trying to shut him up. That's what I know we
Yeah,
got to
thank you,
move
Pastor.
on. But the
Thank you.
truth of the matter
Yes,
is,
yes.
he's an elder, and for a man to be saying
Yes.
the
That's respect
pain,
right there.
the pain,
The pain he
that
sees.
he's feeling. We might be sitting next to him saying, come on now. But the truth, we want him to come on now, so some of the women can see how a man
Supports us.
That's right, supports.
Of a man feeling the pain of the drug addiction, feeling the pain of diapers,
Yes.
snatching children. Because look, let me tell you, not all fathers are bad fathers.
Right.
And not all men are bad men.
That's
and
right.
Not all men are the reason that women are in jail.
Right.
And some of these men have had to take on responsibility of their children.
That's right.
And imagine a father trying to raise a daughter in a homeless situation, trying to go to a shelter and find somewhere for his daughter to shower, but they only have the place for the man, which is a communal.
Yes,
Right,
yes, that's right.
The reason is because I work with this stuff.
That's right.
I had a father come to me, the mother went to jail, he was living in Philly following her, and came back here to Newark, and they put him in the Y.
That's right.
The Y has a corporate shower. He got a daughter.
Yeah.
So he can't take her in there with the men.
Yeah.
He can't take her in to the women because he don't know if they something wrong with
Right,
her.
right.
He got women that are sick too.
That's
You got a little
right.
girl in there with these people and they homeless, and you just don't. 2 babies just recently almost died.
That's right.
One with fentanyl and
That's
one with
right.
heroin.
That's right.
And they both lived this week by God's grace. But it is really, the work that they are doing is so needed. It's like domestic violence, reentry. These are like silent issues. People out here fighting about food stamps and all this
Right,
stuff.
right.
They're not even starting that need the treatment in jail
That's
before
right.
they come out of incarceration, so they can be prepared then too.
Yeah.
We don't have enough people doing the work.
That's
But if
right.
it's not your assignment, you can do more damage than help if you try to put your foot in something
That
and
you
you're not a
don't
Pastor
want.
Pam or Cass or Cornegie. So I'm just saying, I
Amen.
really was just going to say God bless you all for coming. But this man here stirred my spirit.
Yes.
Well, I want to say one thing.
Because I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to be quiet to say. And because I'm a woman
Yes, yes.
and I have a granddaughter that's 9
Yes.
and a 28-year-old son, this incarceration system is designed from
pull 'em in.
what is it, prison pipeline?
Prison pipeline.
School to prison pipeline.
Okay?
That's right.
So now our children, if they're failing at a certain, so maybe you can't do anything on this level yet, but you see a child that might be going astray.
Yeah.
Or a mother on the way. Now today you can't tell mothers like you used to be able to, because they be wanting to fight. Like when I was coming up, you could tell my mother and tell me too, before I got home.
Yes, yes.
But we gotta get back to that
We gotta get it together.
neighborhood.
Yes.
It don't just take a village, it now takes a block.
That's right.
See what's going on your block. Dr. Mann, thank you so much. Come on, let's give them a hand. Come on. We have reentry 101. Come on. Y'all can do better than that.
Can I just thank you, Reverend Roundtree? Can I just give
Thank
this?
you, Pastor.
Can I just give you, sir, your flowers again? Because as a woman who has been incarcerated, and I see the support from my aunties and my moms and my sister's friends, always on the front line for us.
Right.
But to see, because reentry is still under patriarchal, female reentry is very stigmatized.
Yes, it is.
So to have a brother stand in solidarity and say, "I see you, my sister," and that this isn't right. I feel like, oh my God, we're gonna get somewhere now. Your support is real. So thank you.
And I felt the presence of God. I felt the presence of God when the lady was just speaking.
Yes.
I know the presence of God.
Yeah.
And like I say, I'm dealing with these young drug dealers that's coming home from
Yeah.
Trenton State Prison and these other prisons up here.
Yeah.
I'm dealing with these young brothers out here. To get respect, they're not going to respect anybody. They respect me because they call me OG because I used to be out in the streets too. But I'm not out in the streets now. Everybody don't get that respect around my age.
That's right.
They have to see something in you to even hold a conversation with
That's
you.
right. That's
Because
right.
they say, man, get out my face.
That's right. That's right.
But they got to see something in you.
Well, one final statistic is that in CIC, there's usually like a 50% recidivism rate, but we have a less than 10% recidivism rate.
It's power.
That's my power.
Excuse me, you had someone trying to.
Yes.
Yes,
Two
yes.
questions.
I used to work in men's prison
Yes.
for 15 years.
Yes.
Get to the ministry.
Yes.
But what I wanted to ask you, you said make donations. You know you can't take everything into the prison. If I wanted to make donations, who do I send them
Right.
to? Or how do we start it? Because that would be
That's a good,
different.
Reverend Roundtree will have information as it relates to when we open up the resource center,
But
and,
right now you don't have.
no, we can, right now, we can do it right now as
I can
well.
give you my information,
And then we can give you her information, my information, so that you can make donations, because this is real critical. When a woman comes home and she doesn't even have deodorant, or a toothbrush, or a bra, or a
Socks.
washcloth, or
Pants.
socks, or panties.
Just
Panties.
pack up the stuff.
Yeah.
They'll come in.
Email
Yeah.
address.
We'll give
Yes.
it to you.
Do you hear me?
No, I
Just
said
back
all
up the stuff.
she needs is our email address, right?
Listen,
Yes.
just back up the stuff. All you need is their number.
And we'll come pick it up.
They'll
Do
get
you
it.
have
We'll
the
come-
number you want to give?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take one.
She's going to give out her number and I'm going to give out my number. So there's two of us, two different organizations, and we both have a need,
ma'am.
so share.
Yes, ma'am.
Share. Let me see.
When you're in prison, they don't
So is
rehabilitate.
the name and the
So is there, is there an email listserv you're registered from? Maybe you can give it to them? I don't know how to, do we give each of you our numbers separately? How do we make it where everyone can have access?
Okay, for CIC, the number is 908-907-4593. For CIC, the number is 908-907-4593. You can make donations, or you can ask for information about what we do. And if you want to volunteer, maybe we're going to have an event and we need some extra hands. So there are many things that you can do. And now I'll turn it over to Kessin. CIC, Communities in Cooperation, Inc.
And is there a website?
Communities in Cooperation, Inc. The website is cic-nj.org. cic-nj.org.
And for my program, Meet Her at the Gate, it's Meet Her at the Gate. Contact is Cass Severe, C-A-S-S. Last name is Severe, like severe emergency. Number is 862-766-8502.
Can you repeat that?
My number? 862-766-8502.
Meet her at the gate.
Meet her at the gate.
Where are you located?
I'm mobile. I don't have a specific place yet, not yet. Basically, everything I do is just boots on the grounds. You know, I just meet folks where they're at, and usually literally at the gate. And then, you know, I have I get the sisters to places with Ubers. Funding is something that I need. But right now, everything is coming out of my pocket, and I'll raise money. Yes.
And we're located in Newark, New Jersey. We're in Roselle, New Jersey. We're in, where else are we? Linden, New Jersey. We're in Plainfield. We got the kids there. And we're statewide as it relates to reentry services. And we have a location that is at 9-11 Crawford Street, right in Newark, right near Lincoln Park. And then stay tuned as we get our center opened up for women, one stop for the state. Reverend Roundtree, follow her on her Facebook page. Follow Communities in Cooperation, Inc. on our Facebook page, CIC, and there'll be an announcement about a grand opening, and you can bring a gift, like whatever. It could be soap, it could be deodorant. That's what we're going to charge you to get in. We're going to ask that you bring one thing that you can donate, and we're going to have a grand opening. Stay tuned. But we're so glad to be able to serve.
Okay, we had 2 questions.
Yes.
Would you like to give response to before we close out, because I think we're running past time right now. Now the first one I think harks back to the criminalization of our young girls. Now we noticed that trend before the pandemic. Shouldn't we focus on keeping our women, our people out of prison instead of the criminals in there?
That's a good point, and we do both. We do preventative as well as work with those that are incarcerated. And that is very, very important. And we start with them when they're young. We start with the children.
Okay, that was the second part. Can't we empower and educate our youth instead?
Yes.
And that, because I have I'm directly impacted, I too go back to speak to the youth, especially young women and girls, to let them know what the blueprint looks like. You know, we're not trying to have women go there. It took me over 10 years to get to my Teflon Don right now. But this now reentry, it has to be a multifaceted approach. You know, I need a sister going to church. I need her to be in school. I need her to get therapy. She needs to get a job at the same time. But there's ways we could teach them that. The resources. It's not about reinventing the wheel. We do a lot of collaboration work. Like Miss Pastor Pam called me a couple months ago and said, "Hey, I got some gift cards for your sisters when they come home." That helped a lot. You know, just knowing that we have a support system. You know, so I can send them to Pastor Pam's program, because all I am is right now, based on my capacity, I can only help provide resources and referrals. they have to go to Pastor Pam to get the direct services because she has the leverage, the funding, and the resources to do so. But they could come to me to find out who to go to, and I'm more of their liaison right now. So we make it work.
Absolutely. On that point, the rate of female incarceration is doubled, I believe.
Between 2014 and 2018, it increased by 700%. And that was another way, after they had exhausted all of the male incarceration, they started incarcerating the women and sentencing them in ways that would create the system, right? Because it's just slavery, it's just modern day slavery.
And respectfully, yes. Respectfully, it's probably more because, when you're incarcerated, you don't really make the census report.
That's right.
So sometimes, it says 700, but some of us are being undocumented, especially the women that are immigrants.
Yeah.
That's right.
They definitely don't make the census.
That's right.
So,
and there's not enough money, and you need to talk to legislatures about this. There's not enough money in research as it relates to women's reentry,
women of color,
and especially women of color, and programming to help women. So that's another area of legislation that you need to talk about. What are you doing for women that are incarcerated? What statistics are being gathered so that decisions can be made to help make a difference in these communities? Because when you start writing for grants, you can't get the statistics that are needed to support what you're trying to do. But since I've been in business since 2006, they honor my statistics because I've served between then and now, thousands of women. And so now I have a statistic that I can say from CIC, and they honor that. But other people don't have that opportunity unless they can use the statistics that I might share with them. And so that's something you need to talk to your legislatures about, investing in research for women's reentry so that they can serve the needs. They can serve the needs.
It's one of those cases, out of sight, out of mind.
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
And I said that, to me, that's why I appreciate Vic. Has been struggling, but that was the purpose of it, to bring different organizations and resources together so we can cross-collaborate, share information, support each other.
That's right.
So I hope with this conversation will continue, as well as the action needed to support this work. The final question, why are women treated so differently than men when women have done so much more?
It's simply because of the fact that women are the care providers for the children, and it has a significant impact on a family. And as a result of that, it shows up as being that they're mistreated even more because their children are displaced and all types of things are happening with them as it relates to, we talked about the monthly, we talked about all kinds of things, but because women have, all of the trauma, what happens in our house, you don't tell outside, all of the trauma, things that have gone on with women, when it shows up, it shows up. And when it shows up, it shows out. And that's what she was talking about with her life.
And,
it just.
Well, you said
That
before
part.
that, you're younger, you don't have the language to process.
I didn't have the language to process the trauma I was going through. But also, fast forward as an adult coming home, reentry was not really designed for women. Reentry is really it's manual labor. Like Pookie could come home, shout out to Pookie, but he comes home, they put him in a warehouse. Some of us women don't belong in a warehouse. I don't want to package boxes, and I can't maybe lift 80 pounds of stuff. But it's for economically, it works because we're under a patriarchal system still. So as a woman, I might want to come home and be a culinary chef. I have secretarial skills, administrative work, but because you already stigmatized me and I'm not making money off my back for the larger scheme of things, we get overlooked. So
And
that's why we have to make these magic happen and be creative.
Right.
And then our employers too. They have to give us second chances. They have to say, you know what, she's not her Cassandra Cassavere is not her record. It makes it hard because the career pool is not designed for second chances. So we have to be creative and have conversations with some employers and say, hey, can we, if we look at her character versus the crime.
Right.
You know, so we can try to buy in the employers to give us a chance.
And that's what CIC is doing now. We're working with the women, and we're paying for them to go to school, become phlebotomists,
Yeah.
where they
I
can
did that
get a
for years.
living
Yes,
wage.
yes.
And we're making sure that we're looking at the more women specified kinds of positions that don't require that they do all of this manual labor. And so there's all kinds of career trainings that are taking place for them, where they can, what's that certification that they get as a developer or some kind of a peer support specialist?
I went through that too.
To make
Yeah.
sure that they can get jobs and things of that nature, so that's being worked on. Thank you, Reverend Roundtree.
We need to.
She had one more question.
I'm from Atlantic City, and I work with, being in proximity I am to Philadelphia, I work with children whose parents were through a church, St. Thomas Black Church in Philadelphia. I work with one of their ministries that the children's parents were incarcerated, they were either with a relative or someone else they placed, so I saw both sides of it. Right.
And these kids, and the kids did suffer a lot because they weren't with the parents. But also in Atlantic City, with this program that they did start, I was worked for Revel, which is now Ocean Casino, and they were the first casino to do Second Chance.
Yes.
While I was there, I worked nights. What they did to people transitioning back into the system, you know, male and female, what they did, they sent majority of them to nights. So I had majority of these people working with me, but they transitioned me into the Ovation Hall, into the, where the shows were, and they had them in there. And they knew, you know, one little mistake, they could get you out of the program. But they did allow females and males, when they came out, there was quite a few females who were coming out of prison with anklets, you know, and everything else.
Right.
They did come into, they did allow that second chance in Atlantic City, they still do. You know, at one point in time, you could not work in a casino, so how would you pay your bills?
Right.
If you didn't have, if nobody would hire you because you had a record.
Right.
But they took that chance and the program was successful. The problem was they could, Rebel shut down.
Right.
And they no one picked that program
Right.
up.
And that's a program we want to know about.
You know, did that, but I
Yeah,
did-
we want to have your information, and we want to add you to our resource guide. If there's anybody who wants their information in the resource guide that you provide services to reentry, we want to make sure that we get that information, because that's going to be published and provided at the reentry conference. There's going to be everyone that we can possibly get information from to be listed in that guide. So we would love to have your information. Thank you, my sister. Thank you so much. That is so great. You know, I want to thank you for all that you have contributed today. I've learned from you. I've learned from the panelists. I thank Reverend Roundtree for just being the sister that she is, always being the right level of compliment. And all of you that were able, the gentleman here that was able to share with us, that just shows us that there are some men, and we celebrate the men that are in support of the women. You know, we even have a program at CIC that we honor the men who are in the lives of women who are incarcerated, to help them. Yeah, I surely will. I surely will.
Reentry citizens will have
Yes.
really good with them.
Yes.
Support.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I'll share this with him, and he
Thank
can,
you.
he
Thank
can
you.
notify his jury.
Thank you, everyone.
And he goes,
Well, I have